TEC Gauntlet Season 1 powered by WD Black and AMD Ryzen Radeon. You guys are watching the live playoff draw event. I'm your host, Sachin Forsen. On the desk with me are my buddies, quaint and aggressive analysts and casters. Well, how are you guys doing? Starting with you, aggressive.
Honestly, I am pumped after the intense group stages. Now that we are finally heading on down into playoffs, and do remember, ladies and gentlemen, it was our long group stage, and all these teams have gained so much experience battling off against one another. They know each other's strategies. They know exactly what the other team is going to be planning. And now heading on down over into playoffs, it's all about adaptability. It's all about changing up your plays drastically to get that one up against your competition. And now we're going to figure out exactly who are going to be facing off against one another in this intense playoff stage.
That's right. Quaint, what are your thoughts on the live playoff draw event? Well, I'm pretty much sure that you are very excited for this. What are your thoughts on this?
I am very pumped. Honestly, I've seen them grow from what they started off in the Gauntlet with, and like we've said so many times before, the Gauntlet is basically a platform for all of these teams to come in and grow. Even if they're top tier teams, even if they're the best of the best, they still have so much room to grow. And they've come here, they've understood where they're going wrong, where they have so much room to improve, and they have become even better than they have before. So honestly, I'm happy for them, and at the same time, I'm super pumped, Assassin.
Well, so am I. To be completely honest, the group stages were so freaking awesome, right? Each and every team, they had 7 games to play. Like each specific team had 7 games to play, and all of them had a different narrative, different story. And some were energetic, thanks to Red Bull, of course, and some were kind of off because the teams, not all the teams had the best start, and we definitely are going to be talking about all of those specific matches later down the line. But pretty much pumped for this. I know you guys are as well. So let's straight away head on over towards the live draw seed as well. So first of all, we are going to be checking out both the seeds on the 8 teams that have qualified. So seed number 1 is going to be consisting of Global Esports, Velocity Gaming, Enigma Gaming, and Godlike Esports. On towards seed number 2 is going to be Force One Esports, Samurai Esports, the Esports team, and Team Valor. So now, on to you, aggressive. What do you think about seed number 1, and how exactly do you think that journey sort of was in the group stages?
Seed number 1 is not really as surprising as many people think. Like Global, Velocity, Godlike, and Enigma, they're the top 4 teams in our country, and them being on that number 1 spot for the number 1 seed, it's like really common. We knew this was going to be happening, and we knew for a fact that this team will, of course, be facing in this scenario. But at the same time, I feel as though when you consider the journey for most of these teams, I would say it was pretty easy going. Global Esports had a little bit of a hitch here and there because a couple of their players were not able to make it. But hey, it is a very well-rounded team, and they were able to come together strong. But when you consider the likes of Velocity and the recent addition of MW1, he absolutely tore through everyone on that server, picking up a Reyna, and he didn't even use his Lear even once in a couple of those matches. Just goes to show how confident the side of Velocity is. And they saved up a lot of strategies. And I feel as a Velocity, they're going to be changing out the entire game plan and flow of this matchup as they head on down over into playoffs. But when you consider the sides of Godlike and Enigma, they're a very consistent team. They know exactly what they're doing. And with a couple of the recent roster changes, I really want to see how they shift down properly moving on down the line. But at the same time, I think that they're going to be able to work out strong. And in the playoffs, we know for a fact they're going to be bringing their A game down to the table.
So, on to you, Quaid. What do you think about seed number 2 and all 4 of these amazing teams?
Honestly, these guys are more explosive than anything else. Like, it's more of that flashy gameplay style than seed number 1. And I love watching them play every time I see them come onto our screens. Like, look at TET. These guys are so brilliant individually. And Vinks, we've seen how many times he's come up with meme ideas and how many times he's come up to just entertain the audience. And they still manage to pull off those rounds so amazingly. They do it so well, and they do it so professionally, even though they keep that lighthearted sense of humor. And all the teams on seed number 2 are really, they enjoy what they do. including Samurai Esports, Team Valor, Force One Esports. Now, Force One Esports had a bit of a rocky start, but once they got warmed up, once they got that practice in by playing all of these tournaments in the Gauntlet, they just came out to be so strong. And honestly, I wouldn't have these teams anywhere else. I want them here, and I'm so happy that they are.
Well, definitely. I mean, see, I know for a fact that you guys might be having this specific doubt as well as to how exactly both of these seeds have been chosen. I mean, seed number one, they definitely have been chosen. I mean, top two of each group, they have the potential to go ahead and face off against the third and the fourth of the others as well. So, yeah, it pretty much is gonna be like seed number one, they are going to be facing off against seed number two. So you guys had this doubt as well as to how exactly are the playoffs going to be. So there's going to be seed one facing off against seed number two. And right now, as you guys can see on your screens, we are going to be running a live draw as to which team is going to be facing off against which team. And we are going to be updating the brackets accordingly as well. So yeah, gentlemen, are you guys ready?
Yep.
All right, then let's quickly head on over towards the draw now and see who exactly is going to be playing first from the side of seed number one. And it is going to be Enigma Gaming. Interesting. So it's going to be Enigma Gaming who is going to be facing off against who now is going to be the question. So let the draw for seed number two start. And it's going to be Force One. So it's going to be Enigma Gaming who are going to be facing off against Force One Esports. Thoughts on this, gentlemen? Starting off with you, Aggressive.
Honestly, I'm really excited for this matchup primarily because of one thing. When you consider the journey of Force One as a team, they have improved a lot and they've showed a lot of consistency moving on down the line. Enigma is Enigma. We don't really need to give a lot of thoughts to that team, primarily because of one thing. They've proven themselves so many times and they've proven to us that they can constantly change up their strategies. They can bring in those new metas and they can showcase their own potential on every single one of those maps. And honestly, in my eyes, you have to say that Enigma as a team, they've improved a lot, but at the same time, Force One, their improvement rates are exponential. And I'm really hoping that that improvement will be beautiful. So let's head on down over to the team stats for the side of Enigma right at the very beginning before I hand over the mic to you, Sas.
Yeah, definitely. We are going to be taking a look at the team stats coming out from the side of Enigma Gaming. This is the overall stats from season number one, by the way. All the 7 games that they faced off against whatever team in their group stages. And you guys can see the entire result over there. And then these are the individual stats coming out from each player in the entirety of Enigma Gaming. So let's take a look at their season stats, first of all, the matches that they played as well. So they had a game against Samurai Esports where they won it out 2-0. All of these stats are best of 3, by the way. So out of the best of 3 games, we are going to be seeing Enigma Gaming who faced off against Samurai Esports, won it out 2-0. But against Velocity Gaming, they had a little bit of a problem, right? And moving on down the line, Enigma Gaming overall, if you take a look at their season stats, like they have been consistent throughout season number one. Like they're a team that had very less difficulties moving in over towards the playoffs of the TEC Gauntlet season number one. So Quaint, I want to ask you this. What do you think about Enigma Gaming? And how exactly do you think that they're going to be faring up against the stats that are in front of your screens right now for Force One Esports?
Honestly, Enigma Gaming, what else can I say about them? They live up to their name. They're such an enigma because they come up with strategies you've never seen before, and they keep adapting to their opponent's strategies. That's why they always stay on the top. That you've seen people like Hika going out, getting those initial frags, and there's Ghost going crazy on the field with his aim. And then there are so many support players, and it's just so good as a team. And going up against the likes of Force One Esports, it's going to be a really interesting matchup because we got star fraggers like RBK and Rafa who are going to be, pushing into the site. Although RBK plays the site for a lot, he's equally good at fragging as he is at getting information. Like you can let the stats speak for themselves. Look at the kills that he has. Look at the deaths that he has. That is not an easy task to do, and they manage to pull it off with so much ease. What I like about Force One Esports is that they know how to divide their tasks. They know their own strengths, they know their own weaknesses, and that is exactly how their characters are picked. Can see ScarGod, who likes to play the strategic character, likes to support his team, doesn't really go in for that much of an entrance, but he helps his team as much as he can on that Astra, puts up the smokes, puts up the gravity well, puts up the concussors, and honestly, without any of these players in that team, F1 Esports would not be F1 Esports. Like, you can have Rafa and RBK going ham on the field for all you want, but without ScarGod putting up the smokes, without Shivy being that amazing strategist he is, without him getting, information from everywhere, without Nitro on that jet, they won't be Force One Esports, and that is what keeps them, puts them apart from the rest. And honestly, it's a really interesting matchup to see how an enigmatic team like Enigma Gaming is going to be going up against the likes of Force One Esports.
That's right. I mean, Force One Esports, right? If you take a look at the individual stats coming out from each of these players, aggressive. I wanna ask you this: can you shed some light on all of these players from the side of Force One Esports and their individual stats as well? Because we know for a fact that Force One Esports, they had a lot of trouble as well, kickstarting their group stages in the TEC Gauntlet Season 1. Like, they had their own set of issues as well, which is reflected on their season stats. So please go ahead and explain us how exactly Force One Esports did throughout their group stages and how exactly they have made their way in towards this Seed 2 of the playoffs as well.
Initially, I was talking about the consistency of the side of Force One when we were initially picking up this matchup. And you can already see that Force One as a team, right at the very beginning, they were not really able to communicate properly. I think that a couple of changes, as we always were stating, them moving over to that new boot camp could have been one of the primary reasons why they were not able to coordinate together as a team as well. But at the same time, looking at their stats now from what it was previously, you have to give it to all these players to step up massively every single time. Knight Rider, he's having a pretty rough time as well onto the server, but he's able to be consistent and give a lot of value to his teammates through his operator usage, and of course, his rifling. But at the same time, the heavy lifters for the side of Force One has to be Rafa and RVK. Just look at RVK's statistics here, Assassin and Queen, because 276 kills on a Cypher and 205 deaths. Having a positive KD on a Sentinel is very, very, very difficult. And there are not many Cyphers in our entire tournament as of right now that have this level of stats as RBK does. He's known to be a Sheriff God for a reason. And I'm very sure that if RBK was not on the side of Force One Esports, things would have been a lot more difficult for them to win out on a lot of the rounds, because RBK alone has stopped so many pushes that are coming down his way. Just being alone on a site, that he can change the dynamic and flow of this entire tournament. And in the playoffs, I'm really hoping that RBK will be able to bring his A game down to the table as well, because if he's not able to do so, Force One, they're going to be in a pretty tough spot moving on down the line. But at the same time, hey, if you have Rafa on your team, I don't think you have a lot to worry about.
Yeah, I mean, Rafa definitely every single time just consistently puts on the performance as well. And in my opinion, Force One Esports, even though they had a rough start, right, they eventually picked themselves up, and that is sort of reflected in their season stats as well, where they did go ahead against teams like Simple, Tempest, Valor, Inazuma 2-0. Like, there's no questions asked whatsoever. They went ahead to the victory, and they pretty much solidified their hold as well into the playoffs. So Force One Esports, I believe that they definitely are going to have a good time on the playoffs as well, because now that they have, sort of moved into their new boot camp, everything's sort of set for them, and it looks like that they definitely are going to consistently perform as well. So let's head on over towards the brackets now and see the entire change being reflected over there as well after our first pick. So, as you guys can see, upper bracket, this is going to be the first match. This is going to be happening between Enigma Gaming and Force One Esports. So we got that draw done, and we are going to be heading on over towards the second draw now as to which team is going to be facing off against who for match number 2. So let's quickly go ahead and start off with the team from the side of Seed 1 now. And it is going to be Global. That's right. It is going to be Global. So Global Esports, who exactly are they going to be facing off against? Let's check it out. What do you think, gentlemen? Any predictions? Do you think it's going to be TET?
No, I thought it was going to be
It's Samurai.
TET.
Yeah, I thought it's going to be TET. I thought, Global versus TET would have been a very, very interesting affair. But it looks like it's going to be Global Esports facing off against Samurai Esports for match number 2 of the playoffs. So, aggressive. You know what? Let's just jump straight in towards the team stats now. And we are going to be jumping straight in towards the team stats for Global Esports now. And Global Esports, well, interestingly, their run throughout the TEC Gauntlet Season 1 group stages have been amazing. Like, it's just every single match you see, Global Esports are just putting up their big W. Like, there's no questions asked whatsoever. Global Esports being Global Esports, the dominators for the year 2021. And I guess I feel like, Global Esports are a team that definitely are going to have a breeze pass through the entirety of the playoffs as well, just because of the fact that they have got themselves some of the best players out there in the country as well. And their individual prowess just goes on to show in the server as well. But let's talk about global esports and their stats. Aggressive, I want to start off with you. Walk us through the individual stats coming out of these players, their roles, and their season stats as well.
Firstly, at the very beginning, want to highlight Lightning Fast. This guy is probably number one player on my radar for just one thing, his versatility. He started off initially as a duelist player before he joined the side of Global Esports. Then he picked up the Sentinel, and now he's playing the controller. Assassin, I don't think I need to tell you how versatile this guy is, and the fact that he has 295 kills on 204 deaths, more than SK Rossi on the duelist. He is just on another level when it comes down to his versatility and his raw aiming potential. Doesn't matter what he plays, he's going to be an absolute anchor onto the side, and I will always remember what he did back against the side of Godlike. Him being able to solo hold the side of A on split on a Killjoy, you just don't do that unless you are a player like Lightning Fast. But moving on down the line, though, it's going to be Kappa. We call him Clutch Pow for a reason. He has pulled off so many clutches that he can get on the point every single time and get those clutches for his team. He's like that. He's like, I don't know. I really don't want to compare him to Right to Ace because he has the name of Right to Clutch. But at the same time, Kappa, he's like an absolute beast no matter what he does. But moving on down the line, SK Rossi and Sales, I don't think I need to give them any form of recognition or anything because these two players, they know exactly what they're doing. They're consistent. They're flashy. And of course, SK Rossi is SK Rossi. If I try to tell something about this guy, I'm very sure that it's going to be an understatement because he has proven himself time and time again to be one of the star fraggers for our region. And Hellranger, it's just Hellranger, man. He's one of the best IGLs in our country. He can perform to his fullest caliber every single time. And at the same time, Nightmare, when you look at his stats, he only did play a couple of games as he is the substitute for the side of Global Esports. But when he did play, he performed admirably. So
True that, man. I mean, global esports. What can I even say about them? Like, we as analysts and casters, right? We always praise what global esports do and the way they play in and around each and every map, and they have a specific love for certain maps in the game. Like we know for a fact that every single time in a best of three or a best of five, they tend to have Icebox split. They even tend to have Haven in there. So I really can't wait to see what global esports are actually going to do. But you know what? Let's just quickly move on down to the team stats for the side of Samurai Esports. And I want to ask you this, Quaint. What are your thoughts on Samurai Esports, their roster, their individual player stats, and their season stats as well?
Honestly, Samurai Esports is one of those teams that are so explosive that you never see them coming when they're coming into the site. Like, they're so good at what they do. Like, look at Excali. Look at the number of kills that guy has. 326 kills. That's the highest that I've seen so far. And honestly, these guys are so good as a team that I really can't say anything about it. Like, everyone picks up their roles so well. Sai goes in as the duelist. He gets the entry, gets the initial, frag or information that he needs. He knows how to use his abilities, how to use his flashes so well. And Blackhawk, if I could write an entire paragraph about this guy, I would. Because this. He is my favorite Astra player in the entirety of India. Because the way this guy plays Astra, nobody else does. He does it so well, and his team honestly just gets dividends from it because those positionings and the timely execution of all the stars, the gravity wells, the concussors, just the right time is enough to keep the opponents guessing. And even he goes above and beyond that because I've seen him in so many situations where he's placing stars in the middle of a fight, comes back, gets frags, continues to clutch out the entire round. This guy, honestly, hands down, is the best Astra player that I have ever seen. And then we have the likes of Excali and Wimp, just aim gods at what they're doing. And honestly, Excali, what can I tell about this guy? When he's playing Raze, he's amazing. When he's playing Jet, he's amazing. When he's playing whatever duelist he picks up, he is amazing. Because his aim is really, really good, and he knows that. I'm used to him. Look at his kills and look at his death. Like Aggressive said, it is a really hard task to keep a positive KD in tournaments like this. And not only does he manage to do that, he has put up 326 kills for himself. And then there are people like Ion Q, and he's the one who goes in, like honestly helps out Blackhawk with the smokes. He helps out with all the strategic moves. He blocks out vision at the right time, and he also picks up frags for himself. Now, his skills and deaths, the KD is not that impressive, but he pulls the load for his team. And without Ion Q, Samurai Esports will not be Samurai Esports. So this entire team as a whole, really, really explosive, and you will never see them coming because it will be such a blur, and they will fight or retake the before you even know it. So Samurai Esports going up against Global is probably what I've been waiting for this entire tournament, and I cannot wait to see them playing off in the match playoffs.
So the thing is, right, if you look at the stats as well, Samurai Esports, when they started off with the Gauntlet group stage matches, they kind of had a little bit of a problem in a game or two. It is specifically listed as well at the start. Enigma Gaming, when they faced off against Enigma Gaming, they lost out that specific match 0-2. And against Velocity Gaming as well, they did manage to eke out one map, but it was Velocity Gaming to go ahead and get that victory against Samurai Esports. So Samurai Esports, when they initially started off with the Gauntlet, they had their own ups and downs, and it's sort of reflected in their entire player stats as well. Like you would see, some of the players were not able to put up the numbers in terms of the fragging department, but two of the players who were all-time consistent were Blackhawk and Excali. I mean, Blackhawk and Excali, they both are just absolutely fantastic. And when you mentioned, right, Quinn, when you mentioned that we sort of can go ahead and write a paragraph, I guess we have already written a paragraph on Blackhawk while we were casting. Like now we can actually release an entire book on how exactly Blackhawk is one of is just one of the best Astral players out there in the country as well, and mad respect for Blackhawk and his Astral plays. But you know what? With that, I guess we are pretty much at the end of Samurai Esports' team stats as well. Let's just quickly get on over towards the brackets now and see how exactly the entire the entire brackets are going to be put up as well after that specific draw coming out for match number 2. So it's going to be Global Esports facing off against Samurai Esports for match number 2. And interestingly, this is going to be a very interesting affair. I mean, what do you gentlemen think? Like Enigma Gaming versus Force One Esports. All right, let's have a little bit of a prediction. Like, I know that it is too early, but at the same time, what do you guys think? I mean, Global versus Samurai. The winner of that is going to be facing off against the winner of Enigma Gaming versus Force One Esports. Like, what do you? Starting off with you, Aggressive. What do you think about this?
Right at the very beginning, if we just do non-biased prediction, analytically, I'm gonna say that Enigma, they have that advantage because they have proved themselves a lot more than the side of Force One for now. That is, but at the same time, Force One, as I stated before, they have done a lot of improvements. They have gone through thick and thin in this entire gauntlet to be where they are as of right now. So I'm gonna say that maybe Force One are gonna be able to take one map away, and if they're able to take the two, it's going to be really admirable. But at the same time, a lot of the odds are stacked against them. They need to dig deep, and they need to go really far to get that win against the side of Enigma. So I'm going to be saying Enigma's going to be moving on down forward, and for the side of Global and Samurai, Samurai, they have their work cut out for them. It's going to be a team that is based upon pure and utter aggression versus a team that is based upon strategy and aggression. Who's going to be able to take that win? I'm going to let Quinn decide.
Honestly,
Yeah, I
I've been
mean,
waiting
Quinn,
for this.
Yeah, just go ahead and give us your predictions as well for this, man.
See, like when we were introducing Global Esports, I had so much to talk about them because these guys, like Aggressive said, are so strategic in what they do. Like, it's not even about the individual aim potential because all of these players are so good at their aim. It doesn't even matter at this point. It's just that this team are like every individual player is like one well-oiled cog of a really complex machine. What they do, you will never understand because they're so subtle in what they do. It will never be those flashy plays that are going to impress you. It'll be those strategic plays that are not so flashy but held down that is going to impress you. And that is why they've held the number 1 position for so long, because they're not about the flashy gameplay style. They're always about the holes, and they're always about the strategic gameplay style. So them going up against the likes of Samurai Esports is going to be a really interesting matchup because Samurai, they think on their feet, right? Like they know what to do in the moment, and so do Global Esports. Not like they don't, but it's just that Samurai Esports come up with strategies on the spot sometimes, and it really pays them off. Now, Global Esports are just like this old school biblical sort of hold the ground, sort of, shoot whoever comes and shut them down sort of play. So based off of purely that and what I've seen these two guys doing on the field, I might just give the win to Global Esports, because Global Esports just being the team with that much experience and having so much aim potential that they don't even need to think about it and they just have to think about strategies. I might give the win to Global Esports, but I still think that Samurai Esports stands a chance. They might get like one map for a win, but Global Esports, they're just that experience is what matters.
True that completely, and I agree to both of your points actually. And it truly is going to be a very exciting sight to witness as to what exactly is going to happen between all four of these teams. But yeah, let's get on towards the next draw now and see who exactly is going to be facing off who in match number 3 of the upper brackets of the playoffs as well. Starting off with seed number 1 now, it is going to be, who is it going to be? Godlike or Velocity?
Velocity?
There you go. It is going to be
Velocity.
Velocity. Yeah, it is going to be Velocity Gaming facing off against who now? Let's pick our specific opponent for Velocity from seed number 2. Let me TT. Oh
Yeah.
yes, it's happening, guys. It's actually happening. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you out there were just dying to see this as well, and
Yep.
it's happening. And just to let you know that this is all a random generator. So yeah,
Mhm.
you guys might be like, "Oh, no! This is exactly happening as we wanted it to be." No, nothing like that. It's completely random, and it randomly picks a specific team as well. So it's gonna be Velocity Gaming facing off against the Esports team. Now, let's head on over towards the team stats for the side of Velocity Gaming. And I'm going to hand over the mic to you, Aggressive. And I want to ask you this. Can you walk me through the season stats first for the side of Velocity Gaming before I hand over the mic to Quint to talk about some of the individual player stats as well?
Looking at the season stats for the side of Velocity, I don't think I need to say much. 2-1 scoreline against the side of Samurai, 2-0 by the side of Enigma, 2-0 against the side of RG, and of course 2-0 versus TET. And now this is where I'm going to take a small pause and do a little bit more analysis on this. Analytically, we will always say that Velocity will take this win because you can already see on screen that they have taken a 2-0 lead against the side of TET. But the thing is, TET, they could have been holding back at that point because that was still in the group stages. They could be saving up a little bit of their strategies, knowing and expecting that, hey, maybe we can see a possibility that we're going to face off against the side of Velocity in the playoffs. So let's not show them our entire strat book. So things could just get a little bit more spicy. But moving on back down towards the side of Velocity, this team, they've performed to the point of no return. They know exactly what they need to do on that server, and they perform so well on every single one of their maps, tearing through their competition piece by piece without even stopping for a second.
Well, you know what? In my opinion, Velocity Gaming's player stats, well, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about it. Quint, why don't you go ahead and tell me about Marzel and Vibora?
Honestly, there's just such good individual fraggers. Now, Marzul, a little bit newer to the scene, like we all know. He has a lot of experience in the esports industry, but then he's a little bit newer to Valorant. But at the same time, he picks it up so well and manages to pull it off so well. But we've seen multiple occasions where it's just Marzul swapping it out with MW1, if I'm not wrong. And we always see this entire aggression coming out from Velocity Gaming as they have different styles, whether they're playing with Marzul or they're playing with MW1. Now, Marzul is the kind of guy who likes to go in, he's impatient, he goes in, he gets a kill and makes his team proud of him. And the other players, Vibor, Helif, Amaterasu, Right to Ace, they're just so good at what they do. They're a lot like Global Esports. They're like this well-oiled machine with the gears just working perfectly, and they barely ever do go wrong. Like, look at the season stats. They haven't lost a single game. It's just so amazing to watch them play. Like Vibor, look at that. 204 kills, 148 deaths. And even though he's a sentinel, he comes in with such amazing flanks, you'll never know where that ghost is lurking behind you. Even though he's a killjoy, you'll never know where that technologically savvy girl is gonna be behind you. And Helif and Amaterasu and their own standards, Helif playing that Astra, just pulls that star gameplay at the right time. And Amaterasu, Phoenix, obviously, like Marzul, goes in, gets the kills, and makes his team pay for it. And it's amazing what these guys can do as a team.
Well, to be honest, I really want to ask you this, Aggressive. We do know for a fact that Marzel, at the time of the group stages, right, for Velocity Gaming, when the actual group stages started off, when we kickstarted off with the Gauntlet as well, Marzel had recently came into Velocity Gaming, and Marzel, you can sort of see in the stats as well that he did not have the best starts. Like,
Yeah.
he did not gel in with the team at the start. He had his own set of issues. I wanted to ask you this. What exactly do you think about that? I mean, Marzel, how exactly is he doing currently with Velocity Gaming, and how exactly Velocity Gaming are going to advance onto the playoffs with this entire roster?
Moving on down over into playoffs, I'm really hoping that Marcel can use this experience properly that he has learned over in the Gauntlet, because the Gauntlet is the place where a lot of the teams have that chance to gain a lot of experience, grow as players, grow as individuals, as well as a team. So Marcel, he has shown a lot of growth. You have to say that, Assassin, primarily because initially when we first saw him pick up that raise or pick up that Phoenix, he was not really performing to the best of his ability. He was playing by himself a lot more, not really able to coordinate down together with the team. But later along the line, as the Gauntlet progressed with every single match, he changed up his dynamic. He started growing so well as an individual player and also as a team player, understanding when to use his abilities, when to flash for his teammates, when to go in for those hot hand plays, when to use his run it back, when to throw his grenade, showstopper, everything in well-oiled conjunction with his teammates. He's still learning, he's still trying to perfect the timing. He's sometimes off by a second or two, but he's getting there. And moving on down over into playoffs, there's still a little bit of time before things do start on off. I'm really hoping that Marcel will be able to bring his A game down towards the side of Velocity, because I think he's going to be one of those key pieces and that key strategic point for the side of Velocity to shut everyone down. And you also do need to remember something, Assassin. Amaterasu has not been playing for quite a long time. So moving on down the line, things could just be a little bit more spicy, because the main IGL is not on the server just yet. And Marcel, his dynamic could change completely as soon as this player comes on down over onto the server.
Well, to be honest, right, we have been seeing Velocity Gaming just experimenting with their entire lineup now that they have a six-man roster, right, with MW1 chiming in as well. We have been seeing Amaterasu just taking a little bit of a break as well when it comes down to actually being on the server. So he's just going into that full in-game leadership mode, and he's just leading the entire team behind
He's
them
training.
as well. Yeah, he's definitely training, and to be honest, he's just leading the team to victories, in my opinion. Like, MW1 and Marzel together on the server is just something entirely else altogether. And we know for a fact that MW1 every single time consistently performs every single match. Like, no matter what the day, I feel like MW1 is just going to go ahead and wreak havoc. It's going to wreck heads, and he's going to go ahead and put that big W on the board for the side of Velocity Gaming as well. So I want you to give me a little bit of a tidbit about that as well, Quint, on how exactly this entire change and the change in lineups and everything is working out for the side of Velocity Gaming, and what are your expectations moving on forward into the playoffs?
Honestly, like I said, Barzil is still finding his footing with this entire team. It needs a little bit of time to get a little more oiled for him to gel a little bit more with the team. But can we talk about MW1 and how he made that brief appearance on the MVP standings? That guy's so good that he deserved to be up there. Although he was pushed off a little bit after, because there are so many star players in this tournament. But MW1, honestly, he deserved to be in that player spotlight because he was just so good. He is so good at what he does. So, like I said, when this team is playing with Marzel, it's a different dynamic, and when this team is playing with MW1, it's a different dynamic. Pretty similar, but they're subtly different, and you will never know it because MW1 is that kind of player who will hold back and he will manage to get the frags as a duel. But then Marzel is the one who likes to push. A little impatient for my liking, but then he still manages to get those kills. So like we all said, like it'll take a little bit more time to time it well with the entire team, and where like give the calls, like the IGL will give calls and Marzel will then proceed accordingly. But then in the beginning of the entire tournament, we saw how Marzel was, just pushing in at times that he didn't have to, but we saw him grow, we saw him improve, and we saw him, just bond with the team a little bit more. So each time I see either of these players come in and play with the entirety of Velocity Gaming, with the entirety of Right to Ace and the other guys, it's just a totally different dynamic, and it's just exciting in its own different way.
True that completely. I mean, Velocity Gaming, the thing is that with them, right, despite the fact that they are one of the best teams out there in the country, I sometimes feel like with the entire change coming out from the side of Velocity Gaming, right, no matter what change you do, they still are gonna go ahead and put up that win as well. It feels like they have gone ahead and made a specific shift. So basically, on a certain map, they had this specific stat, and when we see them in the group stages as well, To be honest, we had a bit of meta change as well. In between, we had the major update as well coming out from the side of Riot, and we
Yep.
saw a lot of teams went ahead and were quick to be on that Astra pick as well. And in my opinion, Velocity Gaming, they did it in a beautiful way as well. With Hellfighter on that Astra, the guy is just an absolute beast. And we also are now seeing a lot of teams after the recent update go back to their old ways. Picking up Omen, we are seeing a lot of Brimstone picks come out on the server as well. Astra is slowly but surely going back. So, aggressive, your thoughts on that specific matter? I mean, Velocity Gaming, no matter whatever meta change you bring on the board, the cool, calm-headed person sitting in that ideal spot, Amaterasu, he just goes ahead and comes up with an amazing tactic of his own, and he just goes ahead and puts that victory for the side of Velocity as well. So, I want you to shed some light on that as well.
When you consider Amado Russell as a player, he took a little bit of a break from the IGLing role, and I'm very sure everyone in home knows that as well. That initially Velocity, they were IGL-less. Like all of their members really sometimes went up and took up that IGL mantle. Sometimes it was Marzil, sometimes it was MW1. And most of the time it was Right to Ace, but when Right to Ace was not able to do it, everyone else needed to step up massively as well. But now that Amado Russell has finally taken that mantle for IGL back, this entire team dynamic has shifted for the better every single time. And in a lot of their previous matchups, we have seen them just perform so well every single time here, ladies and gentlemen. That is what I really want to see on the side of the playoffs as well, because now that Amadurazu is back full force, he has not really played much at all. Maybe only a couple of games, I'm very sure, Assassin, maybe a handful, maybe one or two. And that's pretty much it. So when you look at the grand scheme of things, the side of Velocity, they did a really smart move not playing Amaterasu, not showing the actual strat book, because when that guy is playing, it's like watching a orchestrator just control all of the musicians all at once. He has a baton and he knows exactly how to control his team with it. So moving on down the line, I really want to see Amaterasu step up massively and show exactly what he has been working on moving on down the line by not being on that IGL position. Because I'm very sure, ladies and gentlemen, he has a real treat for us as the playoffs begin.
True that. I mean, he just goes ahead and lights up the room as well with his entire presence. To be honest,
And as a
Amaterasu, yeah, definitely. I mean, Amaterasu, right? Like, oh yeah, actually that too. By the way, he's playing Phoenix, right? So this goes ahead, snaps, and then there's light in the room as well. But to be honest, Amaterasu as an entire player, right? He's just, I don't know, words are less to describe how great of a player Amaterasu is. Like, no matter what role you go ahead and fit him in, he's just gonna, just easily fit in all of those roles as well, whether it be leadership roles, whether it be going ahead and playing support as well for the team. The guy just goes ahead and fits into each and every role as well. And throughout his FPS career, right, I've seen Amaterasu, and I've personally had first-hand experience as well playing with him. Like we as friends, we have played a lot of games together. And the thing is, Amaterasu, no matter whatever situation the team is in, like we might be losing really bad, but then the guy never loses his temper. The guy never loses his mind. He's like, you know what, guys, chill, we got this. And then he's going to come up with an interesting tactic of his own. The guy is just brilliant, by the way, when it comes down to playing all of these big brain plays and playing mind games with his opponents. He's just really, really good with that. Like in game, the entirety of the Velocity Gaming roster, right, and throughout Amaterasu as well, the way he just strategizes his moves against his opponents is something that we love to see from the side of Amaterasu. And we all have like mad respect for the guy as well. But Quaint, I want to ask you this. Uh, like the esports team. Let's jump straight on towards the esports team now, as we are going to be talking about their team stats, and we are going to be jumping deep dive into their player statistics as well. So I want to start off with you, Quaint. I want you to go ahead and walk us through their season stats first.
Now, there's so much that you can say about the esports team. Like, they've had a few losses, but at the same time, they have had one loss, actually, 1-2 against Samurai Esports. But the thing is, these guys never show their strategies. Whenever you see them playing, right, it's not strategic. It's just raw confidence, pure aim game, and just pure skill. So whenever you see these guys come on, whenever you see, especially Binks, now that guy is a content creator and he creates such good content for the audience whenever he's playing, and we see such meme-worthy plays. it's just so amazing to watch them come out onto your screens and just it's not even pure strategy. They do have their base strategies down, but it's not some complex thing that you might want to remember for future fights when you're having against the esports team. Like these are not strategies that are easily, you can't really upper hand that because it's just them going out and having a fun time and managing to get those wins and going up against teams like these, just going up against Samurai Esports, Enigma Gaming, and they're just going ham on that, and they're just having the most fun time they've ever had. Yeah, they've had a couple of losses, but at the same time, it's not that big of a loss in my eyes because once you go on down into the playoffs, I'm pretty sure they're going to tighten up their defense. They're going to become much more serious. And then we're going to see the actual strategies come out from the esports team because these guys are just amazing at what they do. And I'm very some tricks up their sleeve because from what we've seen so far, there's no way that they're going down without a fight against these top tier teams. Like you've seen Eden99 play of these amazing shock stars, play of these amazing recon stars, getting the absolute utmost information for his team wherever he's on the map. It's almost uncanny. It's crazy. Like he will be on B side, but he'll have this one teeny tiny hole in the ceiling or somewhere where you see his arrows just flying up and landing in a position thought was possible. He's just that good with the Sova. Now, these guys have their default lineups and they always stick with that. It's sometimes I feel like that is not the wisest thing to do. And sometimes it honestly works out for you because you're, so good with that character, you just embody it. And these guys are that. Eddie 99 literally embodies Sova. Badlove embodies Astra. Fox embodies Viper. All of these characters that you see on the screens are literally the embodiment of those players. Now, you've seen Sami pick up that operator and just going nuts with it. You've seen those amazing flick shots. You've seen those amazing headshots with that operator. Even when he picks up a Marshall, like there is a tremor on the field and the opponents feel it. And then Binks. My God, what do I say about this guy? Like when he goes out there, he's just such a god and you will never know what is at you. Like sometimes he'll get killed with satchels and you'll never even understand. No, he has such good game sense and he does it with such ease and just like with so much joy that he's just being playful in the game of Valorant. And honestly, it's a game. You're supposed to take it like that, but he does it with so much ease that it's really, really scary. Then there's Strix, although he's a sentinel with that kill shot, he still manages to pick up those kills. Look at that, 201 kills, 248 deaths. It's a really good strategy. But the only thing is we haven't seen a lot of Fox. So moving on down from here, let's see how much Fox is going to be coming on. Let's see how much Binks is going to be taking a backseat. And let's see what sort of a new strategy they're going to be coming up with now that they're in the playoffs, the big leagues.
True that. So yeah, with that, I mean, to be honest, the esports team as well, right? They're an absolute powerhouse for sure, and the way they have been playing each and every one of their games is something that always entertains us and at the same time gives us quality Valorant action as well. So for the final game, of course, it is going to be Godlike Esports who are going to be facing off against Team Valor, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, there you go. It is going to be Godlike Esports who are going to be going ahead and facing off against Team Valor as well. So with that, we pretty much have got our first 4 matches set as well for the upper brackets. And then we are going to be, eventually moving forward from there as well. But it has been an interesting pick for sure, gentlemen. What are your thoughts on that? And Aggressive, I want to hand the mic over to you. What do you think about Godlike Esports and Team Valor as we jump straight in towards the team stats for the side of Team Godlike Esports?
And now it is going to be Godlike, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just talk about this team as a whole first with the season stats. This team has performed beautifully every single time they head down over to the server, going up against the likes of Global as well. They didn't falter no matter what happened to them. But the main thing that I really want to highlight here, 2-0 wins across the board, no matter who it was, no matter what they needed to do. Only 1 loss, but it's completely fine because a team is allowed to have 1 loss on the board, ladies and gentlemen. You can't always be consistent through all of your games. You can't have that consistency every single time. But what they do have for the side of Godlike is a lot of raw firepower. I'm going to take the mantle, do a couple of players, and then I'm going to hand it over to Quinn to do a little bit more. And now, moving on down to the fact that the side of Godlike have a 6-man roster. A lot of their players are actually interchanging a lot of those agents. That's why you're going to see the confusion on the screen. with Rexy and Flex picking up that Sova, Whitehorse and Hyvon, sometimes switching over to that Astral. Like they constantly switch up their agent pickups every single time for different maps that it's really hard for us to just pinpoint one single agent to highlight them on. And you can see that this is really crucial as well because they show a different level of versatility throughout all of their players. Let's just talk about Hyvon, Whitehorse, and Antidote right at the beginning here, Assassin. Hyvon as a player, this guy is like a mini Sheriff God. He's a Sheriff God, but a mini Sheriff God because he can pull off some of the nuttiest one taps that I've seen in my entire career as a caster. And he makes me fall out of my chair. There are very few people who can do that now. Initially, I just fell out of my chair every single time.
Yeah.
But Hyvon, he's like one of those players that can actually do that to me. He's that good on that Sheriff. He's that good when it comes down to his utility, and he's that good when it comes down to being an IGL for his team. He can control his entire roster, bring the best possible potential that they have out onto the field, and get all of those kills. And Whitehorse, he's like an absolute sentinel god, making sure that he holds down the side for his team, and he will never let it go unless he dies. And even if he dies, he's still going to be able to give calls and sometimes get a kill with a nano swarm from time to time as well. This is Whitehorse for you, ladies and gentlemen. Even when he's at death's door, he's going to bring his A game and he's going to be able to change the entire flow of the matchup. And Antidote, he's Antidote. He just gets on the server and shows a different level of consistency. He's not as flashy as maybe Deathmaker, but what he can do is make sure to hold down a specific sideline, and he's not going to ever let it go without, at the bare minimum, getting 1 or 2 kills. But at the same time, here, Assassin, for Deathmaker, Rexy, and Flex, I'm going to hand the mic over to you and Quick.
Echoing, go ahead and please tell us your specific stats and some analysis on towards the remaining players that make a Rexy and Flex.
Honestly, we have seen Deathmaker on that MVP board be on that number 1, and he has not been taken down from that position. And we all know why. He's just so good at what he does. Like when you're facing, you honestly don't want to be facing off against this guy. Because if you're there on the field and facing off against Deathmaker, you know that you're just going to be giving the slightest of peaks, and he's just going to one tap out of you. Like you're not even going to be able to feel your face for like an entire week after that. He's just that good. 282 kills, 192 deaths. That KD is just insane, and he honestly deserves that number 1 standings, and I don't think he's going to be dethroned anytime soon. And then there's Rexy, Flex, Whitehorse, Hyvon, and Antidote. They're all so good as a team, and like Aggressive said, they tend to like interchange the players. And I want to talk a little bit about Whitehorse before we go on to the next team. I want to say how this guy is such a god on a Cypher. And Assassin, I've told you so many times before that I love a good Cypher play, and Whitehorse gives me exactly that. Just like I have so much respect for Blackhawk as on an Astra, Whitehorse on that Cypher is probably one of the best Cypher plays I've ever seen. He comes into that flank at just the right times. He gets the information at the right times. He's just like that information broker that is just a ghost and you'll never see him in the field, but he'll see you. So honestly, all in all, this entire team just so well glued together. They have their ups and downs at the same time. Like Antidote has a few slip-ups over there, but amazingly well done by the entire team, Assassin.
True that. But Godlike Esports, to be honest, their stats, they speak for itself, and they pretty much did have a slow start, especially with their entire roster shuffle as well, right? Like when Anti initially jumped in, Godlike Esports had a little bit of a trouble. But yeah, like it was definitely a phase where Godlike Esports, they just brought themselves back together and they got their stuff done as well when it comes down to just picking their game up and putting in the wins as well. Let's quickly jump on over towards Team Valor now. And I want to ask you this, Aggressive. Team Valor, right? They have got some really, really good young bloods coming onto board as well, such as Buster, The Game, Psychovsky, Pixels, and even an old dog like Hunter. So, what do you think about Team Valor? And I want to ask you this specifically on how exactly do you think that this specific team has brought in a change, being an underdog before and now going up against the top dogs?
When you consider Team Valor and their journey from the start of the Gauntlet to now, I don't think I need to tell you, Assassin, they needed to work hard. They needed to dig deep, so deep that they nearly drowned under a lot of the pressure that was coming on down through from every other team in the Gauntlet. They were at a certain stage of getting relegated. and they were able to climb back out of that point and take the playoff position. Going up against the side of True Rippers right at the very end, sorry, not against the side of True Rippers, sorry, I mean against the side of Tempest and Inazuma, they needed to go up against them right at the very end stages and bring back the entirety of the flow into their pace. Initially, I thought that this was going to be a 7-7-7 on the scoreboard, and you can already see it was a 2-1 scoreline against the side of Team Inazuma, and we were so excited for Inazuma to take a possible win out of it, because then at the group standings, it was going to be a 7-7-7. It's going to be Tempest at 7, Inazuma at 7, and Valor at 7. And at the very end of it all, it would have been a complete coin toss of which team is going to be moving on down forward, because it's all going to be based upon rounds. But Team Valor at the very end, they were able to pull through because of their consistency, and they were able to bring their A game down to the table and use a lot of the teamwork and the consistency they have gained throughout the entire gauntlet to the best of their potential to bring their A game down to the table and take the entire competition by storm, and then heading on down over onto playoffs. It's going to be quite difficult to say the very least, because Godlike as a team, they proved themselves a lot more than the side of Team Valor. So Team Valor, moving on down forward, they're going to be the underdogs of this.
I mean, to be honest, right, Valor, they had their set of issues as well, facing off against teams like Global Esports and Godlike Esports, which is being reflected in their season stats as well. But what about against Force One Esports? Quinn, I want you to go ahead and shed some light on that. I mean, Force One Esports, we know for a fact that they're a team like they're a team that definitely are supposed to get that victory as well against Team Valor. But Team Valor, we know for a fact that against teams like Tempest, Inazuma, Simple, and Insignia, they have got themselves the victory without any issues whatsoever. But against Force One Esports, and that too, this specific match, if I'm not wrong, was played at a time where Force One were having their set of own issues as well.
So that's the thing. Team Valor did have their rocky start, and when they were facing off against Force One Esports, it was at that time when they were having that rocky start. Now, like you said, even Force One were having their little bit of issues, but by then they had improved well enough to at least stand a decent chance, and they were doing quite well for themselves. So yeah, 0-2 was not something that I was expecting. It was honestly because of a few minor slip-ups here and there. It was a really close match. So honestly, I'm not going to be giving any flack to Team Valor at all, because they tried their best. Now, the thing is, eventually down the line, they figured out how to stabilize themselves and had a proper footing on the ground. Sometimes in these both teams, Team Valor and Force One Esports, they're very similar. Sometimes it's like it's just Buster's and Rafa's game. It's just them having the flashiest plays and them just like holding the entire team by the reins and just going ahead and destroying everyone on the fields. But they had, like I said, they had the rocky start. They figured out how to distribute their individual roles to each other. Even for Force One, same goes to Team Valor. It was mostly Buster taking up most of the load, and eventually they found out how to distribute the load, and they had their proper roles. Like Pixels on that Astra, he plays such a good strategic role. He plays the smoke so well, and when he plays a Viper, he plays a mean Viper. I've seen him play Viper on Vine. I've seen him play Viper on Freeze, if I'm not wrong, and he's so good at what he does. His stats may not be his KD may not be in the positive end of things, but his aim is really, really good. If you guys have seen him play on the field, this guy will surprise you. And then there's the game. Honestly, he deserves to play that Jet because he pretty much plays the game, because when he peeks at that off, you're gonna know for sure that he's gonna be landing a shot. He's just that good with his aim, and it's honestly Buster, Pixels, and the game that lift up Team Valor. Now, Tchaikovsky and Hunter, they play their good individual roles, but they're not flashy. They're more muted, but they do support the team in their own way. So all in all, once they found their footing, Team Valor came up as a really good team and a force to be considered. But going on up against these top tier teams, I am really interested to find out who's going to be coming out on top.
So the thing is with Team Valor, right? We know them as the brave and the courageous. I mean, Team Valor are a team that are fearless and ready for any sorts of challenge that you throw at them as well.
Yep.
And that is something that has made themselves stand against the top dogs as well in the group stages. And they're right here in the playoffs as well, facing off against all of these best teams out there in the country as well. So Team Valor, congratulations for that as well. And we wish you all the best in your playoff stages as well. Let's move on over towards the brackets now and see on how exactly we have got our matches set for the playoffs upper bracket as well. So it is going to be Enigma Gaming facing off against Force One Esports for match number 1. And then match number 2 will be Global Esports versus Samurai Esports. Then we have Velocity Gaming facing off against the Esports team. And then the final is going to be Godlike Esports and Team Valor as well. So the winner of Enigma Gaming versus Force One Esports is going to be facing off against the winner of Global Esports and Samurai. And then the winner of Velocity Gaming and the Esports team is going to be facing off against the winner of Godlike Esports versus Team Valor. And so on is going to be the journey throughout the playoffs as well. You guys can see it in front of your screens. And gentlemen, I want your reviews. So we did Enigma Gaming versus Forcewood Esports and Global Esports versus Samurai Esports. But now it's time for Velocity Gaming and the Esports team and Godlike Esports and Team Valor. So Aggressive, I want you to go ahead and take the mic for Velocity Gaming and the Esports team.
For me personally, looking at their previous statistics, I would say that I already gave the analysis when we were looking at the stats for the side of the esports team and, of course, the side of Velocity. That analytically, I will say that Velocity will be able to take this win. But at the same time, you need to consider something. There's a lot more time left before the playoffs start. There are a couple more days. So I feel as though the esports team, they could just change up their dynamic entirely and bring in a new, different level of strategy to go up against the side of Velocity. But at the same time, they need to dig deep. They need to change up their strats a lot more if they want to go in for a proper win against such a juggernaut of a team. In Velocity, they are well known to consistently change up their strategies as well. So the esports team, they need to be on their toes and they need to try something a little bit more different. But at the same time, I will still give the advantage towards the side of Velocity because knowing the track record of that team, it could be a possible 2-0.
Indeed. I kind of feel that way as well, but at the same time, can't really forget the fact that
Yeah.
the esports team, they are, putting in the work as well. I know for a
Yeah.
fact that they haven't been practicing together as a unit, but yeah, they do have some ace up their sleeves as well. So you never really know. The esports team, they might just surprise us as well. Moving on over to us, Godlike Esports versus Team Valor. I kind of need your views on that. What do you think can Valor do against Godlike Esports, Quaint?
Honestly, it's a really simple affair. But before I jump to that, I had a few more thoughts about Velocity versus TET. The thing is, we know that Velocity is like so up there and they have that experience to go along with it. Now, the problem with the esports team is, yes, they don't practice as much as I'd like them to. And I've seen them play so well. They're really good individual fraggers. They're really good individual players. But that's the thing. We haven't seen their actual strategies come out because Binks, whenever he comes there, he just starts memeing. So we never know what they're going to be pulling out of their sleeves. So if you're going to be seeing a wild gameplay where they honestly get serious, sit down, start fragging, and start strategizing against Velocity Gaming, TT might be a really interesting matchup for Velocity Gaming. But then coming back to Godlike versus Team Valor. Now, again, Godlike has a lot of experience, and sometimes Deathmaker just steals the show, and he's honestly the Godlike. He's just the one who's going there, fragging, and getting the entire round team, and his team is like, am I a joke to you? Let us do something. But yeah, considering all of that, if them going up against Team Valor has had a little bit of a rocky start. They stabilized themselves a little bit, but in my opinion, they still have a long ways to go to compete with the likes of Godlike Esports. So I don't really think that they're going to be winning out that matchup, and they might be going for low brackets. So let's just leave it up to time to tell. But I really think that Godlike might just take the win 2-0.
Well, nicely said. To be honest, I feel like Valor, they are going to be prepping themselves up as well. They have had a little bit of a roster shuffle here and there. So, interestingly, we might just see them popping off as well in the playoffs.
Hopefully, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Team Valor, definitely, we are to expect some fireworks in the server against
Yep.
Godlike Esports. But yeah, all four of these games are going to be insane, and we can't wait for the playoffs to start off as well, to see who exactly is going to be, the one to advance on towards the next stages, and who exactly is going to be the one to move on towards the lower brackets. And yeah, I mean, if you guys were thinking what exactly happens to the loser of these four matches, they are going to be going into the lower brackets, and then they're going to fight their way back as well to victory. So it's not like if they lose off this specific match, then their chance at the
Yeah.
Gauntlet Season 1 is over. No, they do have another chance. They can go into as lower brackets, and they just can fight their way through as well. But with that, I mean, we pretty much are at the end of the playoff draw event as well. Aggressive, I want your final thoughts. I mean, any closing thoughts before we go ahead and wrap this up?
Honestly, I just want the playoffs to start, man. We've been in the group
Yeah.
stages for so long. There were not really a lot of high stakes. Teams were just facing off against one another, and the highest stake was going into relegation. And now there is no more relegation. You're just completely kicked out of this tournament, and you need to head on down over onto season 2, which registrations are live, by the way. So make sure to check the links down in the description below. But moving on forward from that, I just want to see the stakes come on down through, and I want everything, and including the kitchen sink, to be thrown down onto the table and onto the server. because
Yeah.
I want to see these teams fight at their fullest potential, holding nothing back. And now in the playoffs, that's where the real fun begins.
True that. The playoffs are going to be the actual battlefield where all of these teams are just going to go ahead and give out their everything, like absolutely everything. Just like Aggressive said, they're just going to go ahead and throw everything at the other team, including the kitchen sink as well. So can't really wait to see what exactly is going to happen in the playoffs. And I know for a fact that you guys are hella excited for this as well. So I want you guys to go ahead and click on the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and hit the bell notification icon to never miss another update. Also, please go check out our sponsors, LG Ultragear, WD Black, and AMD Ryzen Radeon, because I know for a fact that you guys know that our sponsors, our lovely sponsors, LG Ultragear, WD Black, and AMD Ryzen Radeon, have got some amazing deals for your next big upgrade. And now that LG Ultragear is part of the Gauntlet as well, I mean, there are title sponsors. They've got some insane deals going on there, 24, 27, 32. I mean, they're best monitors out there, right? Including 1ms response times, high refresh rates, and insane G-Sync performance as well. So, yeah, I definitely want you guys to go ahead and check the link down in the description below and check out our sponsors and their products. Amazing deals going on over there. And with that, also go ahead and get your Red Bull crates ready, because the playoffs are going to be starting off soon. Very, very like it's gonna be hella excited, right? I'm just losing out of words right now, because the thing is that playoffs are gonna be the actual battleground, and I know for a fact that all of the audience is gonna be absolutely ready for it as well. So yeah, get your Red Bull crates, scan the QR code, and get yourselves sorted. Also, go ahead and check out the social media handles coming out from the side of the Esports Club to never miss another update. And we are going to be seeing you guys in the playoffs as well. You guys were watching the LG Ultragear TEC Gauntlet Season 1, powered by WD Black and AMD Ryzen Radeon. Going to be seeing you guys in the playoffs. Until then, goodbye. Esports.